India in the finals.
All right. Greetings, fans, and welcome again to the Champions Trophy Show on All Your Cricket and the massive hit cricket show. India today stormed into the finals of ICC Champions Trophy, led by Virat Kohli, who scored a brilliant 82. Rohit Sharma again lost a toss, the 14th toss in a row. But Rohit himself said he wasn't sure, he wasn't confident whether he wanted to bat or bowl first. So it might have been a good toss to lose. I have with me today, as always, Malik, who will break this down for us. Malik, what's going on?
Easy peasy, man. Easy peasy. India, what a victory here. What a victory. It was
Do,
just a clinical performance from the ball one. That's it. Clinical performance all the way to the end. There was never a time that I even thought that Australia was going to win this game. That's how easy it was. Remember yesterday I said it's going to be by the closest of margins. It wasn't even close.
All right, I think my prediction was right. A little bit more than the
No,
bleakest
no. This
of
was
margins.
listen. The scores might show that they chased this down in the 49th over. This was not even close. To be honest, I think Australia made a huge mistake off the bat immediately. Won the toss. I think they should have bowled. But okay, fine. You batted first. But now you send in Cooper Connolly to open, and this guy couldn't do anything. Right? He was nervous. He was in a semi-final. I don't think there was any reason to open with him. You should have opened with Josh Inglis, taken a chance right there. And I think that's where Australia messed up right off the bat.
All right, Australia batted first, 264. Stephen Smith, 73. Alex Carey, 61. Shami, 3 for 48. Jadeja, 2 for 40. And Varun Chakravarti, 2 for 49. India in the reply, 267 for 6. With King Kohli getting 84. Shreyas Iyer, 45. Rahul applying the finishing touches with a well-made 42 from 34 ball. Nathan Ellis, 2 for 49. Adam Zampa, 2 for 60. Samir, do you agree with Rohit that this was a good toss to lose? Because everyone before this game, all the
Uh,
pundits, all the experts, Samir, everyone said you have to win the toss and bat first.
hey, listen, you bat first, but you don't score 264 on this pitch. You scored 324. You understand the point? That was the problem. And immediately off the bat, as I said, Cooper Connolly comes in, misses 8 balls in a row. I think he had one ball that he batted, right? Before he nicked it, right? And that's
One
it.
ball hit the bat. Was
Yeah,
that one
one
of the
ball, and
worst
that was the ball
performances you've
that.
seen
And
from
then
a
what I'm saying
debutant?
is, listen, that is what sets the tone for a semi-final like this, right? What sets the tone is you got Travis Head there, and now you got to bring in Steve Smith way early in the game, right? That's what it is. And they had a good recovery, but then guess what? Varun Chakravarti, the guy who hasn't played any real games for India, gets the big wicket of Travis Head, right? So that is what I'm saying. Australia made fundamental mistakes. And I think, once again, Stephen Smith uncharacteristically played a lot slower than he usually does in ODI cricket, right? And I told you with Kane Williamson, he batted a little bit slowly against India in the round robin league, right? And the same thing happened here. Steve Smith was trying to protect his wicket, and I think that's what put the pressure on Australia. And at the end, when crucial wickets fell at crucial times, Australia was behind the curveball. Remember, whenever it looked like Australia was going to go for it, they used to lose a wicket.
Travis Head was dropped the second ball, the first legal delivery of this
Yeah, yeah,
game,
that was
Samir.
early. That was early. But you know what? Once again, India recovered very well from that. There was a lot of drop catches in this game. Kohli was dropped once. I think Sharma was dropped twice, right? And then it kept happening, right? So once again, I don't think the drop catches was the result of what happened here. What happened here was that Australia, once again, uncharacteristically, it's not in their DNA, but uncharacteristically, they played, I think, defensive cricket today. I was shocked when I saw Marnus and Steve Smith. They had a 50-run partnership, and it took 14 overs, almost 70, 80 deliveries to get it done, right? Didn't make any sense. These guys are not used to playing like this. I think they were a little concerned about the spinners, but remember, this wasn't really a great spin wicket. This was actually a very decent track. And I think India strolled to victory because they understood, hey, listen, there was no demons in this pitch.
So, Samir, based on the natural sort of characteristics of the pitch and what we're seeing throughout this tournament, this pitch earlier on in this game was a little bit slow, was a little bit tacky. It may not have spun, square or anything, but it was a little bit slow. To be fair, it did quicken up throughout the Australian innings, and maybe everyone would
No.
have said 270 to 275 would have been a good score, not 320, but in the end, it proved to be lower than expected. Also, Samir, Stephen Smith, he really played the spinners well. He manipulated spin well, and although his innings appeared a little bit slow, he was really the one who kept the innings together throughout.
Listen, when at 54 for 2, when Travis gets head out, it's the ninth over of the innings.
Mhm.
They're in command at that point. That is where I think the problem started from. Marnus and Steve Smith are both experienced campaigners. This is where they needed to put the pressure on the Indian team. They didn't need to take a lot of risk. Just put the pressure, right? Hey, listen, you start scoring some runs in a quick fashion, all of a sudden the pressure is back on the ballers. That's what India did today. India, every time they looked like, Australia had a chance, Kohli and Iyer scored runs, right? That's what happened. And that's what they needed to do here. I think Australia is going to rue their chances. I think they would have won this game if they would have scored an extra 50 runs. There's a lot of dot balls today that Australia played. This innings actually reminded me of Pakistan, to be honest. The way Australia was batting today, this is how Pakistan bats. There's no reason for that.
Samir, Australia made a conscious effort to target the pacers because they realized that the spinners would get the most help. And again, we're not saying it was a rank
The
turner. We're
spinners,
not
all the
saying
spinners were right around 5.5 runs and over.
right.
None of the
So
spinners were economical today.
yeah,
Once again,
yeah.
Jadav had 8 overs. He gave up 44 runs. He could have easily given up 64 if Australia would have been a little bit more aggressive. Varun gave up 49. He could have easily given up 69. Axer gave up 43 in 8 overs. He could have easily given up 63. Jadeja, he wasn't impressive at all. 40 runs for 2 wickets in 8 overs. He could have given a lot more. Australia did not attack. Even when they needed to attack, they didn't. The only guy who came in to attack was Glenn Maxwell, and guess what? He was bowled by
Are you
Axel.
saying are you saying that was a bad strategy from Australia?
Australia played too defensive. Too defensive today. 264 is a decent total when you have Pat Cummins, Hazelwood, and Stark in your bowling lineup. Not against this team if you don't have the bowling strength. And Australia's bowling was very ordinary today. You saw, Australia's bowling. There wasn't anything special that they did. Glenn Maxwell was treated with disdain. Sangha, once again, was treated with disdain. Zampa was treated with disdain today by the Indian batsmen. And they didn't even try. They knew they had to only score less than a run a ball. So they didn't even try that much. I'm telling you, India could have easily chased 320 today.
Well, just continuing on with the Australian innings, Samir. Australia gathered some momentum when Alex Carey came in. They were going really, really well. Where did they where did they lose their way? Because they could have easily. It looked at one point that Australia was going to get close to 300 runs.
As I said, hey, listen, I don't blame the lower order. I don't blame Maxwell here. I don't blame Carey here. I think the blame goes to Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne. Those are the two experienced guys. They're batting in the middle. They are in command. They got to take advantage of, where they were. They didn't. Remember, they were batting on a pitch which was probably the best pitch we've seen in Dubai in this tournament, right? This was not the pitch that the New Zealand team played on. This was not the pitch that Pakistan batted on. This was not the pitch that Bangladesh batted on. This was a better pitch. And India, once again, early on, when Travis Head was going, it looked to me that, India might have made a mistake by getting that fourth spinner in because they could have easily had Harshit Rana. But, at the end of the day, I think Indian decision was right to go with four spinners because just the fear of the spinners is what kept Australia at bay. That's what it was.
For me, Samir, I felt all of these guys had a role to play. I felt Labuschagne played his role well. I felt Steve Smith played his role well because his role was to bat deep have other guys bat around
Yeah,
him,
but
they're still in a position, Samir. They were still in a position to bat deep and to score runs with Alex Carey at the crease and Josh Inglis and these guys, right?
nah, completely wrong. Completely wrong. Did you see how Kohli was batting? Kohli was batting to chase 267.
Mhm.
Marnus and Smith weren't batting to score 264. That was the difference. Marnus and Smith are batting first, right? So they got to score the runs. They got to be assertive here. They were extremely unassertive. That's the bottom line. This was not a normal Australian performance. A normal Australian performance would have gotten them up to 320, 330 because they would be targeting that kind of a score. They weren't targeting that today. They were happy getting up to 260. Even when Alex Carey was batting with the tail, did you see that they didn't even attack at all? Even Alex Carey wasn't really hitting the shots. Alex Carey played better than I think the rest of the batsmen today, but he wasn't really attacking. He wasn't his attacking self where he was attacking every ball because he knew that they only wanted to score 260, 270.
So Australia, in their having scored 264, India began their reply, and could it have gone any worse for Connolly dropping
Yeah,
Rohit Sharma early? Does it get any worse than this?
yeah. Hey, listen, he dropped him. He finally got him LBW, but it didn't matter because the damage was done. 264 wasn't enough. That's it. I think if Australia even takes the Sharma catch early, right? Because remember he was dropped also by Marnus. That was a difficult chance, but that was still takeable, right? And then Kohli gets dropped by Maxwell at a very, very key moment of the game, right? So I thought, hey, listen, Australia made mistakes, but I still believe 264 wasn't enough. Look at how India batted. India batted conservatively and chased this down easily, right? In the 49th over. I think India, if they would have batted a little bit more aggressively, could have even chased this down in 40 overs. But they didn't need to because remember, they're only chasing 264.
Virat Kohli, a man for all seasons, a man for the big occasion, the GOAT of ODI batting, in my opinion. That was a perfect innings in a big pressure game to get into the finals.
Hey, listen, he averages, I think, in the mid 60s when he's chasing. That's it. That's all you got to say. He averages mid 60s. So he's going to be up to it. But you know what? Once again, as I said, the ease with which they were batting, right? That's the key. There was no problems. It looked like they were just playing another regular game because it didn't bother them. And then look at KL Rahul coming in at number 6, a guy who's usually an opener, right? Look at how he's embraced this role. And remember, sitting behind him is Pant, the destructor, right? Pant didn't even get a single game in the Champions Trophy, and I'm pretty sure he's going to sit on the bench in the finals too, right? So KL Rahul, 42 of 34 balls at the end, and easily got his team home. Easily.
Great innings there from Shreyas Iyer as well. We have to give him his flowers. A guy who was dropped, who came back, and he's looked every bit a champion player since his return.
But once again, another player didn't need to rush, right? Because he's chasing 264. Make him
That's a good
rush.
point.
Listen, these guys would have rushed if they would have been chasing 320. They were chasing 264. They knew that it's an easy thing for them. Listen, the word today for India was easy.
KL Rahul is one of my favorite players. He's been one of my favorite players for a long time. Just his exploits in IPL and Test cricket. He's a very versatile batsman who's able to. He bats in every position. He opens. He bats
Yeah.
at 3. He bats at 5. He bats at 6. And his innings today, the poise that he showed, the even his range. His range has improved in terms of his hitting, boundary hitting prowess. A top knock there from KL Rahul, Samir.
Hey, listen, so, KL Rahul is unbelievable. I think he's one of the best Indian batsmen currently. Okay. And, once again, he has pressure on him from Pant. But, I can't just sit here and just say, hey, listen, he's going to be pressured by Pant. What I'm going to start thinking about now is the future. And even though Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli only batted for, I think, like 3 overs together today before Sharma got out, right? But those 3 overs started, my mind is thinking about, what's the legacy of these two together, right? And in those 3 overs, I started thinking they win this Champions Trophy, 25,000 plus runs between the two of them, right? I think there's a very good chance India wins this Champions Trophy, and just like the T20 World Cup that they won, both of them decide to retire from ODI cricket.
No, no chance. There's no chance of Kohli retiring.
Hey, listen, I'm just telling you there's a possibility. And I think Sharma, if the Sharma wins, Sharma's absolutely walking off.
That's possible. I think everything is possible, but it's not likely.
My
It's not
feeling is they
likely.
want to leave on top. And what's better than to leave on top just like this? 2027 World Cup for the ODI is far away. And with a guy like KL Rahul, who's performing, might be the next step to probably, give him the reins of the team, not as captain, but just as the leader, right? The de facto leader. Like right now, Kohli is the de facto leader of India, right?
Mhm.
Everybody knows Sharma is the captain. He's a great captain, and he showed himself as captain today, right? But at the
Right.
same time, I think that there is a feeling that, hey, listen, a guy like KL Rahul could really step up because of what he can do in the moments, right? The moments are the key. These are the moments where I think a guy like KL Rahul shines the most, right? So I think, once again, getting into that setup, I think there is an opportunity here for India to really step up and could be, hey, listen, once again, remember we talked about Australian DNA against Indian DNA? Australian DNA is missing a few pieces. So, once again, I'm going to give them a little bit leeway there. Hey, listen, they didn't have their captain, Pat Cummins. They didn't have two of their strike ballers. They made the semifinals. Great performance by them in this tournament. But at the same time, you look at India, and Indian DNA is starting to shine now, especially since the T20 World Cup. I think India has done very well. Yes, they have had some losses in the test side, but I think the white ball side has done extremely well here.
All right. India into the finals of the ICC Champions Trophy, having beaten World Cup champions Australia easily by 4 wickets. Tomorrow, Samir, South Africa will take on New Zealand in the second semifinal. Semifinal number 2. South Africa having flown to Dubai to potentially play India, then
Listen,
finding
both the
out that they
teams
had
have to travel a lot.
so
So
they're not
here's
back
the
in
thing.
Pakistan.
Tomorrow in Lahore, right? This is going to be the final match of the Pakistan leg of this tournament, right? Even though Pakistan is host, the final is going to be played in Dubai, right? Which is unfortunate, but that's what's going to happen. I would have loved for the final to be in Lahore and India playing there. It would have been a great atmosphere, but unfortunately, we've been robbed of that. In the meantime, I think this game is going to be a classic game tomorrow. I think this is going to be a game which I think we wanted the Australia India game to be like this, but I think this is going to be a classic tomorrow. It's going to be a high scoring game. In the 5 ODIs that have been played here, I think the average score has been 300 plus, right? So I think that this is going to be the game that everybody's going to be watching tomorrow. And I think the goal tomorrow is going to be whoever wins needs to be confident that they can take India on.
Yeah, Captain Timber Bavuma said this will be a battle of both bowling attacks. Both teams have great seam bowling attacks. As you mentioned, the pitchers in Pakistan are really good, and we're definitely, these teams are well balanced. They have the bowling, they have the batting strength. They're going to also have some selection headaches.
Both the
I'll
teams,
imagine tomorrow for
both
sure.
the teams, both the teams are going to have those.
So when we take a look at the South African team, how do you see it? Do you see any changes?
Yeah, of course, of course. Hey, listen, I think Zorzi is not going to play even though he's fit because
Mhm.
Bavuma, the captain, comes in, right? So I think South Africa is going to go with Bavuma and Ryan Rickleton, who's been in very good form. And then Dustin is going to be probably batting at one down. And then we have Markham, Klassen, and Miller, right? So I think that's what they're going to choose. And then they're going to go with their same bowling lineup in Mulder, Jansen, Maharaj, Rabada, and Nagidi. I think that's the lineup that they're going to go with, in my opinion.
Miller. Could this be Miller's last crack at an ICC tournament?
Yep. Hey, listen, he got really close in the T20 World Cup, Once again, they fell short, obviously, against India. So they want another crack at India for sure. So they're going to be very, very motivated. But they're going up against a side that, remember, they're your pre tournament favorites, New Zealand. And once again, New Zealand has the same questions as to who they're going to leave out from the top order, right? Me and you discussing this earlier in the day, I really think that the decision needs to come down between Daryl Mitchell being dropped and actually playing all the young guns and Will Young, Ravindra, and Conway, because I think all those guys have scored runs.
All right, I'm gonna go for experience. I feel in a big game like this, just like India did, not India, Kohli did for India. Mitchell is also a big gun player for New
No
Zealand.
question. No
And I
question, he
and I
is.
certainly
But do not compare him to Kohli.
no, he's not being compared to Kohli, but in the grand scheme of things, he's
Hey,
actually
listen,
he's a
Kohli has
very good player. He's an
14,000 runs. This
experienced
guy
player.
has less than 2,000 runs in ODI. Let's not do that, man. Come on.
Mitchell for New Zealand is a gun player. I'm going with Mitchell. I'm leaving out Will Young.
Hey, listen, Will Young has a century in this tournament, right?
That's fine. That's fine.
And
It's a
Rachin
big game.
Ravindra has a century in this tournament. Devon Conway has runs in this tournament. The two guys who actually don't have the runs, and Kane Williamson had some runs against India, but he didn't really perform that well, really. He played very slow as far as I'm concerned. So I think it's actually a toss-up between Kane Williamson, if I was the coach, Kane Williamson and Daryl Mitchell, who I'm going to choose, and I'd rather play the young guys at this point.
All right. Well, Samir says play the young guys. I'm going to go with Daryl Mitchell and Conway. Will Young, for me, sits on the bench.
Wow. That's a tough decision.
Well, Samir, you know that my pre-tournament favorites, obviously, would be New Zealand. So I'm obviously backing New Zealand to win tomorrow. What about you?
Hey, I think once again, as I said, it's a very, very close call. I'm going to back South Africa, to be honest. Here's the reason why. I think New Zealand lost that game the other day to India. There's going to be some effects, even though I didn't think it would have that much of an effect. But the way New Zealand collapsed, right, against India, I think that's an opening for South Africa to explore there, right? South Africa is going to say, hey, listen, if India can do it, so can we.
All right. Well, there you have it. Our predictions for semifinal number 1, India over Australia, turned out to be correct. Tomorrow, my prediction is New Zealand over South Africa. Samir has gone the other way, and he's backing the South Africans to come out on top.
Hey, I like both teams. I love both teams. But if I have to pick one, I think South Africa is the one. The reason being is, remember, they've actually lost to New Zealand a couple of times, right, in the last few months. And now I think they're going to be very motivated to play against New Zealand. And I think they have the guns to do it.
All right. Again, all our cricket and massive hit cricket show. Another review of Champions Trophy action 2025. See you tomorrow for a roundup of the second semi-final between South Africa and New Zealand. Bye for now.